Gaining ground in Kenya, and despite the challenges lingering the sport of kings, which is largely dominated by men, a queen reigns, topping Kenya's leaderboard for years. But how did 46-year-old Leslie Sakombe defy the odds to become one of the best jokers in the country? Our sports reporter Stephen Kiprop has the details.
In the sport of kings, tradition, heritage and pedigree are sovereign. Success on the track is the last chapter of a story that started centuries ago. But here in Kenya, horse racing has been dominated by a queen, and we are here at the Ngong Race Course to trace her journey from the start of the race to the finish line, where impressive results she has registered has placed her on top of the Kenya's leaderboard. A sport that dates back to colonial Kenya, gaining ground in the country a century ago. This is horse racing, better known as the sport of kings. But for more than a decade and counting, the sport of kings has seen this queen take the crown, staying top of the Kenya's leaderboard for years.
Being champion jockey 15 times in Kenya is a huge achievement for me. And for me, just learning so much about racehorses and these horses as individuals has been one of my, I think, most rewarding aspects of racing, and being able to get them to perform as well as they can.
Horse racing has not only scaled the 46-year-old Leslie Sakombe to greater heights, but also improved her mental health, which she finds even more fulfilling.
I was at university. I've just graduated as a veterinary surgeon from Nairobi, and one of my saving graces, I think, for my mental health actually was coming here every morning and riding horses. It's almost like, for me, meditation, and it's really very good for your soul to be with these animals. As you can see, they're actually very kind. It's us who make them to be difficult at the end of the day.
But as notes the quadragenarian, before getting a horse to grace the tracks, a lot has to be considered to ensure that you are en route to be one of the best jockeys in the country.
A racehorse has to be a thoroughbred for starters. That's the rules. They have to be born as thoroughbreds. To determine whether they're going to be a racehorse or not, you very much go on their breeding, like who their father and mother is, how they look, that's their conformation. Also, what their previous family have done, in the sense of what their records have been. Have they won races? Have they not won races? You know, do they have problems where they go lame? All that sort of thing, I think, is very indicative of what makes a racehorse. And the first thing is soundness. You know, your horse has to have 4 legs that are functioning, and they are conformed correctly. If you buy a horse with any weaknesses, you're likely to get issues, because remember, this is a very fast sport. It's very, very strenuous on their legs, and they have to have the body and the strength to carry them, and they have to have the legs to go with that, to hold that speed.
The horses are usually bought when young, often between the ages of 1 and 2, then known as the yearling, trained for at least 6 months before they graze the tracks as 3-year-olds.
When we get them, first of all, we get them as youngsters where they haven't been taught anything. So you have to teach them to be ridden, and then you get them conditioned, which is strong, you know, like trotting. And then we teach them to canter, and then from that you teach them to gallop. And then from that, you make sure that they're strong enough, first of all, to be able to gallop. And then it's like any athlete that's doing a sport, like any of the athletes that do track or marathon running, you have to get them fit. Usually it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get them race fit, depending on whether they're coming back from an injury or whether they're coming back as a 2-year-old. Which will take longer because we have to condition them, which is put muscle on them so that they can carry themselves to be ready to do high speeds.
A large number of people in love with the horse racing are often put off by the costly nature of the sport. The cost of buying and maintaining a horse is high. Nonetheless, SACCOM has some advice for those yearning to be part of the sport of kings.
My personal advice to anybody who wants to be part of this sport, which is a really, it's a sport of kings, is to go in a syndicate, which means you get a group of you, like your bar buddies or people you hang out with, your friends, and you all put money in towards a horse, and then you have it as a group, which is the way forward for people who, can't afford to own one themselves. Because you don't hire them, you actually buy them as 2-year-olds, and then you teach them to race, and then you go through their career as your horse.
SACCOM is a candle that continues to light other candles. Among them, Richard Kibet, who has now been on the racing industry for 19 years.
Kama sio farasi sijui sahi ningekuwa wapi, because imenitoa mbali na katika hali ya kimaisha, kiuchumi, farasi ndio imekuwa kikuzo kubwa kwangu. Mbio za farasi zinalipa especially when you are patient, na kitu ya muhimu ni kupenda na utie bidii kwa kazi yako, farasi hulipa.
Kibet, who started off as a runner, is keen on horse racing, hoping to be a trainer as soon as he bows out of racing.
Wakati nilikuwa nakimbia mbio za miguu, nikawa nimevutiwa sana na maneno ya farasi, nikapenda kwa sababu mbio ni same na athletic ya miguu. So hiyo ndio kitu ilinituma niingie kwa industry ya farasi. Ningependa sana kukuwa trainer ya farasi, because mimi napenda sana, because iko kwa damu, and also it's my passion. And ningependa kukuwa trainer, na the other thing ni kufunza upcoming youngsters. Yeah.
Unlike any other sport, horse racing was blown apart by the novel coronavirus, which altered the sporting events after the first case was reported in Kenya on 13th March 2020.
We didn't race for 8 months, so we really struggled. We've only just started back and there's still no spectators, which sadly, this is a spectator sport. So, it's been tough. It's been tough riding with no spectators and not having the prize money and everything that you would have if you had sponsorship, because at the moment we have no sponsorship. So we're struggling, to keep the owners happy and to make enough money to meet our overheads as a stable.
This has even been made worse by the government neglect, as even as Kenyan horse racers plot to take the international scene by storm.
There's very little involvement with the government. We could really do with their help. The land, I believe, was from the government about over 100 years ago. But as far as the government helping this sport, they haven't helped us at all.
The Kenyan horse racing season is expected to resume in January 2021, with SACCOM lacking to reign supreme yet again. Stephen Kiprop for TV47 Sports.